Hi, my name is Chris Remy, and I am here again as your voice of the customer. I'm not a teacher. My academic credentials are not in education, and I'm not what some of you would recognize as an expert for your purposes here. I am, however, an expert in what I want for my children and their education. I've also personally spoken to hundreds of parents and teachers in my district, Leander ISD, and I'm here because I want to make sure that you know what your customers want. Here's what I've heard. First, people want proven math instruction, not fads or experiments. We don't have time for experiments, especially to fix something that was never broken in the first place. Parents aren't interested in whether there's a market for new textbooks or exciting teacher training programs. They just want math education that works based on knowledge, procedures, and practice. Elementary school teachers don't want to waste already scarce instructional time by overcomplicating elementary arithmetic and teaching several different methods to frustrated and demoralized children. Middle school teachers are already noticing a change. They can't understand why their students are now struggling with the math that kids used to know. We're already seeing the effects of this new math. Second point, you could rename the math TEKS to the Tutor Full Employment Act, because that has been the effect. Business is booming for Mathnasium, Sylvan, Kumon, and others. In Cedar Park, there's a Mathnasium opening up in the same strip mall as another Mathnasium. Good luck finding a teacher that has room for you if you want after-school tutoring. They are booked. In addition to the flood of phone calls and emails to your offices that I know you got, and our flat 4th grade and declining 8th grade math NAEP scores, which I've included in your handout, we talked about that earlier, they are declining. The explosion in tutoring is a sign that the new TEKS have caused a major problem. There's no getting around that. Lastly, back to a point that we talked about in September, teacher training is not the answer. Amending the TEKS is the answer. Removing the process standards is a good first step, because if it's in the TEKS, it has to be taught since there is a STAR assessment at the end. The STAR is designed to hold teachers accountable for teaching the TEKS. You cannot sever this relationship without action by the legislature. This is something teachers have told me over and over. And it's circular reasoning to say, let's see what the STAR results tell us, and then we'll be able to judge the quality of the math TEKS. The STAR assesses the TEKS. So if the TEKS say 2 + 2 is 5, and that's what the STAR says, then hey, it's a great math standard. You can't train your way out of this problem. Teachers are not stupid. They are following the directive you have given them with these TEKS. And I hear a lot of the conversations about the TEKS are looking at them in a vacuum, and you cannot look at them in a vacuum. You have to consider them in the context of the STAR, which means two things. One is they have to teach it if it's in the TEKS. Two is the school year is 130 days, because it all has to be taught by the time the STAR is administered. So please go forward with the proposed changes to strike the process standards from the content standards and in the preamble sections. Thank you.
Ms. Miller?
Well, what we're hearing today, what I'm hearing is we've got teachers and administrators that are saying, hey, it's great, it's wonderful, let's keep it. Okay, we're doing great. And then we have parents who are saying it is not working, and please do something about it, okay? And then I see here people being very defensive about it because it's already out there, and they're trying to say, hey, it's okay, let's wait a while, you know, that sort of thing. So, in your opinion, what would you do in this? We can't go back apparently to the beginning and start again. Okay, you know, we're at a point where now we could do a little bit of, you know, editing maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we could take some of the process standards out.
Yep.
I don't know, but then I hear people saying, "Oh no, don't touch them, don't touch them." So what's your?
I agree. Taking the process standards out is an important step. It's not the only thing that needs to be done. A lot of ink has been spilled about the such as statements that you have, but you also have including statements. And those are another major source of the problem, because the including statements are where all those models are laid out, and now kids are forced to learn 5 different ways and demonstrate proficiency in 5 different ways because of those including statements. So I think you need to, one, uncomplicate the TEKS by removing the process standards, but two, you need to take another look at the content standards themselves, because those including statements, as one example, our main reason for all the frustration you're hearing from parents and from teachers. We've heard from teachers today. We're going to hear from some more. I've spoken to many. I think they don't feel comfortable speaking up, but there are many of them out there that, first of all, because their parents see the same thing with their own kids, and also their professional expertise is sort of being shunted to the side because they have to follow the letter of the law. So there is not universally loved and adored by teachers.
Thank you.
Mr. Rowley, or whatever your name is, Manning.
Interesting how many members are left in the room.
Well, Chris,
Are there, oh, okay.
good to see you
great.
again. And by the way, is that, of course, I know that you were also in a race for school board and that sort of thing. I congratulate you for that. There's not very many people that will have the courage to, and the gumption to not only just, point out an issue, that sort of thing, but actually, wade off into that. And that's quite a thing. I want to just say congratulations for that. But I would ask you this: is that I guess you've been here since this morning. You've heard all the testimony, and it is rather interesting to hear that there's sort of a difference of opinion and a difference of philosophy that we hear, and the longer we go, the starker the contrast, and we begin to see this separation here. And so I would like for you to just sort of reflect on that, and just kind of what are your observations in terms of, we do have some educators that have stood at that very same podium and that very same microphone and saying, it's all, sunshine and flowers, and everything is peaches and cream, and then you have and principally folks from Leander ISD that have come to that microphone repeatedly and said that this is not okay, and this is what's happening, and here's the effect of that, at least in your point of contact that you have with the math program. So I'm just kind of curious, is that surely that as you've listened to this whole process, that you have drawn some conclusions. I'm just kind of curious, kind of where you are.
I think you're right. There's definitely a difference of philosophy, and that's as it should be. My contention is that the way that the TEKS are written is we don't have a choice as to whether or not we're going to execute on our philosophy. Because I think there are two things that the other side is forgetting. The first is the dimension of time. So it's all well and good to say that we have this wonderful bag of tricks of multiple methods and deep inquiry into processes to teach mathematical concepts. It's quite another when, as I said, you really only have 130 days to teach all those TEKS, and you have limited instructional minutes in the day. It really makes it moot to say, well, this is just a guide for good instruction that teachers can pick and choose from. Are they picking and choosing based on what's best or based on what they have time for? Because it's all well and good to say that TEKS do require memorization of times tables, but if there's not enough time, it's not happening. And I can tell you it's not happening. This is from my discussions with middle school teachers who are just not understanding why kids don't know these things anymore. Even in 5th grade, they're starting to say, I went down the hall to talk to the lower grades to find out why these kids don't know their times tables, why they're still counting on their fingers.
Yeah, do you think? Yeah, and so I think that it was Ms. Thibodeau that came in and talked a little bit about the fact that we're spending more time on the model,
Yeah.
and versus on the actual skill,
Right.
and so in our, because we have embedded the process standards in every knowledge and skill statement, it in fact amplifies the emphasis on those things.
Sure does.
And as a result of that is that we're spending more time, writing stories and drawing pictures and doing models and things like that, and less time actually mastering the knowledge and skill that's needed for mathematics.
Absolutely, and that feeds into my second observation. The first is failing to consider time. The second is failing to consider the star. You cannot look at the TEKS in a vacuum. You have to consider the fact that these teachers are going to be held accountable based on star results. which means that everything they're doing as it relates to TEKS is with the expectation that they are going to be assessed and held accountable based on how well the kids do on the STAR. So it is no longer a question of which one of these methods is the right way to reach a kid. It's that I have to make sure they know all these methods for the STAR. And when we're only looking at the TEKS in a vacuum, we're forgetting the most important thing, which is that there is a very important accountability measure at the end. And that drives a ton of behavior before that, in that compressed time of 130 days.
Yeah, unfortunately, we've, in our rush for accountability, unfortunately, we've made everything in the system more about the adults than about the students.
Agreed.
But anyway, all right, thanks, sir.
Members, before I recognize Mr. Mercer, I just want to remind you, we still have 7 more people signed up to testify on this item, and we have 20 signed up to testify on the next item, including invited testimony. And we are not posted for action on this item. So I'm not saying don't ask questions if you want to ask questions, but it's going to be a long day and night for both us and people who have taken a day out of their lives to be here with us.
Plus, with additional signups, we have 26 additional testimonials.
And the other thing is we have flights for the science folks. So we do want to kind of not do the repetitive questioning that we've been doing. And so if you can shorten it to a set, give us your recommendation, here's what we should do and make that your question. I think that would be helpful, and then we can move along a lot faster in the Q&A.
Sure. Then
Anybody on the list or? Yeah, I'm back in the driver's seat. Yeah. Okay, Mr. Mercer.
Well, then, with that spirit, here's my question. I've been asking over and over, and in line with what Ms. Thibodeau and others have. If you had a choice between model or process or skill and content, which should we be going toward?
The TEKS should be skill and content. Let the teachers make the decision about how they're going to teach those skills in that content.
Exactly. Thank
You're
you.
dictating, right now you're dictating
Yeah, okay.
Thank
how to do it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.